Our most powerful instrument is our voice. And I think that's what women lose a lot of times. And we think about storing and holding and suppressing our voice, our feelings, whatever it may be.
And then I realized that through this cohort and what we're doing just feels like another layer of that.
The opportunity that we're having now is not to become that thing on our own, but become that thing together so that we might be able to inspire and empower and engage and consider what the future can be for ourselves, but do that for others.
It's not arriving at the perfect version of ourselves, but it's really accepting like the changing versions of ourselves.
And that we want to create this blueprints that other people can do the same thing in their own lives, right? And have. I just want to welcome everyone in the audience to this very special episode of Becoming You. It's a collective episode in the sense that there will be 5 or 6 of us chatting today. And we call ourselves the Mosaic, and you'll understand why as you listen to this episode. But everyone who's appearing today has been on the show before, so it's an honor to have them back on the show and together as a group with me today. So Carly, why don't you kick us off on what it means to be back and welcome back, and what have you been up to since then? And then we can dive into how the group came together.
Yeah, it feels so good to be back. I love you. I'm so happy to be here. Oh, sorry. I'm awkward and clumsy.
Not at all. You're great.
Since we last chatted, where am I at? I got a grant. So
Wow.
I don't think we talked about that last time, but I got a grant and it's going to help me stand up what I called the third wave. And so I always had this intention of waves of change being like sound waves, emotional waves, and like waves from the ocean with surfing.
Right.
So this summer we get to finally launch that. The grant is through the Department of Veteran Services, the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Cool.
And what we're doing is we're working with suicide prevention for female veterans. So we're going to do a 12-week program offering them individual therapy, group therapy, sound healing, both individual and group sound baths. And then we're going to teach them how to surf, but we're going to make it somatic. So you're going to learn to surf, but really you're going to be learning about how to like drop into your body and be connected. Surfing and blue space, water, it's all very healing and therapeutic. So I can't wait for this. I think it's going to be so good. And then the added somatic piece of just really like nailing down the mind-body connection, I think is going to be really fun. And
I love that. Yeah, that sounds so exciting. And on one of our previous episodes on Becoming You, one of the guests talked about somatic work versus, other types of work. And you just mentioned dropping into your body. If you can kind of double click on what does somatic work look like and how can we actually drop into our bodies so we're more aware and can move through maybe some of the trauma that we're still holding on to.
Yeah, I think of somatic. So it comes from the word soma. You can Google, I think it's Greek. So relating to the body, especially distinct from the mind. And why I wanted to make it somatic surfing is because you and I have talked a lot about trauma, just in professionally, personally. And I think what I'm finding in the year of 2026 is like, there's a lot of buzzwords. So everyone knows trauma, everyone knows nervous system, everyone knows narcissist, everyone, like all these things that are a little bit more nuanced than I think we think. So somatic is just a way for us to be in our body. And why that's important is because when we experience trauma, a lot of times we learn that being in our body is unsafe. So our nervous system is very activated. We don't like to be there. And we think of bad coping or like maladaptive coping as like a symptom of that. So like substance use, self-harm, avoidance, being a workaholic, all of those things so that we don't have to like feel the discomfort and like the ick that's living inside of our body. And so in order for us to like reclaim our bodies is we have to teach our nervous system that we can be safe and that it can feel safe to like live as ourselves. And so if we've never experienced that, then it is really great to have someone like hold space, a safe container, as they say, for us to start feeling. So there is someone to support you. Say you do have like a really intense reaction, your nervous system gets really heightened, even though you're not in danger. It's just how your wiring and your conditioning maybe, right? So it's really hard to move on from anything if we're not aware of what's happening.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense. And thank you for explaining that. And I was just thinking too, any of these like women veterans in Virginia specifically, right? Because they have to be local. If they want to work with you, how can they get involved in their own healing journey, but working with you specifically through mechanisms like surfing, right? Or breath work or whatever it is that you're offering these days, which I love how many things you offer. It's really amazing because it helps the whole person.
So, fun fact, today is launch day.
Ooh.
I have a digital product. Oh, this is going to be fun.
Show us.
Because I created a workbook for women that's like mantras, meditation, and mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm terrible at selling things. And so I was like, you know what? Let me make it a digital download so people can just like click from the website and get it themselves.
Yes.
So it goes through vocal toning of each chakra, because some of you may know if you listened before, like I do sound healing.
Yeah.
And so our most powerful instrument is our voice. And I think that's what women lose a lot of times. And we think about storing and holding and suppressing our voice, our feelings, whatever it may be. And so there are ways we can use our voice to like activate our chakras, each energy center, and kind of help clear those out. So there's digital downloads available on my website, wavesofchangecoalition.com. And then so there is a form through there for you to work with me. You can sign up for my newsletter while you're there, which I put out every Friday, which is like, we've transitioned a bit. It's now going to read a little bit of like a blurb attached to a blog that I'm going to put out every week, along with upcoming events and updates about just the business in general, like this podcast, being a part of a book collective, the digital downloads, things like that. And so you can also DM me through Instagram at Waves of Change Coalition. That's the name of the business. That's the name of all the things, if you want to get in touch with me. So yeah, I think that we've learned that talk therapy only gets us so far, and we really need to go beyond the surface, which is why I started to become interested in sound healing, which is why I incorporated it into my practice, and then pivoting into like something kind of completely different for the summer, but really tracks with my therapeutic recreation background, which is how I got into social work, which is how I became a therapist. So it's kind of a cool full circle moment.
Yeah, it sounds very full circle. And speaking of women kind of, I don't know, biting their tongue, right, or losing their voice or anything like that, I've started to notice a lot of pain in my jaw. And I think TMJ, I don't even know what it stands for, but like this lockjaw syndrome is pretty common right now for some reason in our society. And I don't know if it's related to the fact that we feel like we're losing our voices and stuff, but ultimately in its worst form, you can't even open your mouth. You can't even, expand your jaw. And from a somatic perspective, is there anything that I or anyone experiencing this can do to kind of work through that? I'm hoping I can kind of meditate it away, but I don't know what you would recommend in this case.
If you think about it, right, think about clenching your jaw, right? So and I know that you have worked in corporate, right? So in corporate, we have to play the game. So if you have spent years and years, like literally holding your tongue or clenching your jaw because it's not safe to speak, or you know that what you're going to say is going to essentially fall on deaf ears, I think a big thing that happens is we do use our voice, but it's not held, and it's not held safely. So we express a need, and this is like outside of work, friends, family, romantic, whatever. Express a need and it goes nowhere. And so then I think that starts to also steal our voice. it's funny, I just got diagnosed with hypothyroidism.
No,
And I'm
that's
like,
not
what?
funny, partly, but ironic, sure.
I know. I'm like, what do I need to say?
Right.
What have I been suppressing?
Yeah, exactly. And I almost feel like because I've just recently it feels like a finality, and can't say I won't ever work in corporate America again, but I feel like I've closed that chapter in a kind of significant way. And I wonder if now my body is catching up to what my psyche and my subconscious was already experiencing, right? And so now even though I'm feeling more outspoken, I feel like the guardrails are gone. I can be a little more free with my voice. I don't have to be so scared anymore, filtered. And anyone who knows me knows I'm barely filtered to begin with, but there's definitely been a difference, like corporate versus non-corporate for me specifically. But maybe my body is like, wait, this isn't safe. We can't do this. So because I'm overriding that, it's causing me this pain and like trying to physically shut me down. It's possible.
No, I think that is probably very true, because I think things can happen on a delay too. Like, it doesn't always have to be immediate. Sometimes these symptoms come after the fact. And I think you made a great point, is like, my nervous system doesn't recognize that this is safe because it hasn't been safe in the past. And so as I'm like speaking up and using my voice, my nervous system is like bracing for the fallout from it. It's like, which brings me to thinking about like parts work. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
But our highest self, like according to Schwartz and parts work, doesn't know, like our parts don't know how old we are. So your part doesn't know that you're like not in corporate and you can say whatever you want now.
Right. Exactly. And free. Right. No, that's so true. And I wonder too if I can like connect it cognitively, emotionally, spiritually, all of those things, and just let it naturally work itself through. Because from what I've learned about TMJ, and I'm self-diagnosing here, no one's told me in the medical field that I have TMJ. However, it shows up overnight. And once you have it, it really never leaves, even if you get like their injections and stuff like that. Now I don't have like the clicking and the popping, but I just have a very sore right jaw. And it's been like this for over a month now. So I'm, and a lot of people who probably try to move away from Western medicine, or they want to try something natural and, kind of experiment with holistic medicine and things like that, would be open to this conversation of like, what's the deeper message here, right? What's my body trying to communicate to me? Where do I need to slow down? What am I not saying? And was it in the past or is it in the present? And then kind of allowing yourself to be present, to face the pain head on, and to accept the fact that, this could be the new normal, may not go anywhere.
In vocal toning, there's two sounds you can do. There's the bija mantras, which are like the seed sounds, and that ties into like Sanskrit and things like that, which I am not an expert on and don't want to feel like we're appropriating. But so you can use either it looks like ham, but it's hum,
okay.
right? Like the long A.
The humming. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so that's the seed sound. And then the vowel sound is I, like in my. So like I, and you're just letting those vibrations, and you're focusing, you're bringing your intention to that energy source.
Right.
So like we're working on our throat chakra. So we want to kind of like drop in and be very mindful and intentional and like bringing the energy to this space while we're doing the vocal toning. And that's part of what these worksheets are that you color in the chakra while you practice the vocal toning. So if we're working with the throat chakra, you're coloring in, you're just like,
beautiful. And this is available in your workbook.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I love that, because I've done like color by numbers, right, for adults, like meditative, but I feel like this is combining them in that way that I was exactly just kind of putting out there, that I was looking to have it, make it make sense in my mind and in my heart and all of that. And then on top of it, there's a monthly meditation here in Orlando that I've been going to, and the woman who runs it She offers a bi-weekly meditation at another facility. And I went to that one once and we did a humming exercise. And she even mentioned that when you're humming, let's say you're congested and you're having like a sinus issue or something, the humming can actually open up your airways and all that. So I'm thinking that vibration could possibly help with my jaw. So I'm definitely going to try it. And just the fact that you're like inviting people to color along, but in an intentional way, like it's directly tied to a throat chakra image, right? So then you're just connecting all the dots. I think when we're really focused and intentional, that's where the growth, the healing, and the, connection to the divine or to our purpose with the universe, it really just becomes exposed at that point. You can't run away from it because it's all right there. It's laid out in front of you.
Yeah. And when we're in that space, that we're opening ourselves up theoretically, if we want to be open to receiving from that source, higher power, or whatever. And we're intentionally allowing that to come in rather than walking around closed off, not saying the thing, repressing our rage, all the things. And right now, with the culture as it is, there's a lot to come up, and there's a lot to that maybe needs to be said or talked about or released, because things that are happening on a macro level impact you very directly and very personally. And all of that ties together, right? Like abuse, taking of power, taking the voice, body autonomy, like all of those things are being exposed at a macro level and can very much have a physical impact on us, even if we seemingly are far away from it.
Right. Wow. If that was not an example, I'm like, right, croaking like a frog. But literally, that is so true. I feel like, and in our collective group here, we've even talked about this, like what's going on in the world feels so heavy. It feels all consuming, and we feel obligated to do something about it. But at the same time, we want to exist with that high frequency, right? And we want to live our lives on purpose and be intentional, be optimistic and positive, and not let what feels like an all-consuming negative distraction energy, like take over our daily lives. And I think it can be very challenging to balance that. And all of us have talked through that. I'm so grateful for this group for that reason too. And I wanted to get your thoughts on how has it been for you to be part of this, woman-centric community that we started together basically over a year ago now.
It's been so great. I think that I'm in a time, there's been a lot of shedding. I feel like I'm in more of an isolated time, starting and running a business. It's a solo therapy practice. So it is very labor intensive, emotional, and like physical with the admin. And so having this group of women to just connect with and chat with, even if our calls don't get like super productive towards writing or anything, it's just so nice to be able to connect and to be able to feel seen and held, and to know that there are people who think like me and move like me through this world. And it's been beautiful, because even like Allison, who will come on, we're constantly chatting in our DMs about the same thing you're saying, is like, how do we allow ourselves to remain hopeful and engaged in the beautiful world when things seem like it's on fire? And it's been really helpful to continue to like ground me in, you're doing beautiful work, and continue to like spread joy to your little cohort or community. Like that's where our power is. We may not be able to help everyone or change everything, but we can at least like really lean into who is around us and cultivate community. And that's been really important and special. I don't know if I would be as adjusted.
I totally feel you on that, especially because if you are cut off from, let's say, like-minded people or people who you feel are supporting you and holding space for you, and the only people in your life and the only community you have is someone that's in kind of like a contrast to that, right? And not almost like the opposite of direct alignment, right? Like indirect, like disalignment or misalignment or something but we as humans, we want community and connection. So then we keep them in our lives, right? And it maybe even in a greater capacity than they would ordinarily have if we had another outlet. So I really, what you're saying, like, echoes so hard for me too, because there were some conversations I could have with all of you that I couldn't have with other people in my life. And if I didn't have you guys, I'm just thinking about the fact that I might have made allowances for the other people in my life because for the sake of connection and community, and so that you don't feel so isolated and alone. And I think many people are making sacrifices to maintain the relationships that they have, right? We always hear this, like, choose your battles and don't die on this hill and don't burn bridges, but at what cost? And is there a way to move away slowly from the community that you have known if it's unhealthy, and then find and build the community that you really want for your life? And I hope that by all of us doing this, we're really leading by example and maybe giving people the blueprint to do the same.
Yeah, I love that. I hadn't actually thought about it like that, but talking about, like, when you find yourself in community that is misaligned and you're staying for the sake of that connection and camaraderie, but no, it's not, like, no, it's not the best thing for you. Like, how do you quiet quit and start developing and finding a community that is more aligned? That is a really cool concept. And I think that, I layered in a lot of ways and complex in a lot of ways, but we find ourselves in these communities, I think, especially early in life, that we were put in, and we wouldn't have necessarily put ourselves in there. I'm particularly thinking about, like, religious communities and things like that. And as we grow and evolve and develop our own sense of self and identity and, our own critical thinking, and we start realizing, I don't know if I would actually be friends with you if I wasn't, didn't
Yeah.
start coming to this church at the age of 6.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, but how do you, like, if that's all you know and those are the only people you see?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. You're kind of like stuck, pigeonholed, you name it. It can feel disempowering too. I've gone through different friend groups when they leave your life for whatever reason, right? You get rejected by a set of people. It could be even an employer or coworkers, friends, family. Of course, we hear that phrase, rejection is redirection, but there can be this impulse to fill that void and to make brand new friends just to fill the gap that the old ones left behind. And I think that it can also be an opportunity to take pause and intentionally recreate that community, to find alignment and to not be, repeating patterns. Jill and Allison, so great to have you guys back on the show. It's amazing to me to have had each of you on Becoming You individually to share your stories, which anyone can check out online on YouTube and anywhere you stream your podcast. But to have all of us back here together, kind of hopping in and out, but collectively we're here together to have a chat about this women-centric community that we've been building for over a year now. And it's such a gift to have each of you in my life, and then collectively that we're all in each other's lives. So tell me more about what we're doing here, or what you've been up to since the last time you were on the show.
Oh, God. What have I been doing? A lot. I've been building a business, building a couple of businesses, reimagining eSchool for Girls, hunkering down, trying to survive this winter that we've been going through, all of us, at least on the Northeast.
Yeah, one
Uh,
blizzard after another, I've
Happy for
heard.
spring. Next
Yeah.
week, it's going to actually be 76. And I did I see the other day, like 80 one day?
Oh
It's
my
kind
God.
of crazy. And then it's going to be 34 the next day, or 44. So I'm not really sure. And when I really think about everything that's been going on in this world and what we're all dealing with as a collective of humans and humanity, and one of the reasons why I'm so happy about our group is, everything happens in the right time, right? And because it's meant to, or it's supposed to, or you just have that mindset that you can consider that. Uh, and in the darkest days or darkest news days, but that's going on, having a group of people that support each other and are ready to, when the time is right, create something really powerful together. that we are going to inspire, make a difference for others, show many people, including ourselves, the way that might not be so apparent.
Mhm.
And it's just a really good reminder. And that's when you think about what I've been doing since the last time I was even on your show was, I mean, just, you know, figuring out, continuing to becoming and that is, a formula for success. Being open. I've been open. Or I'm trying to be. I'm not open every day, but trying to be.
We do our best.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I feel that all of you women set such a great example for me to just continue to be open, to be positive, right? And to find the silver lining, but tap into this network of support and community. And it's not by accident that we come together. We get to be intentional and we get to show up on purpose. If it was up to just chance, this would never happen, right? So it takes a concerted effort for sure on all of our parts. So thank you for all doing that. And Jill, how about you? What have you been up to?
I have been doing the exact same thing of working with clients. I am trying to branch out, but I realized something so important recently. So I've been working really hard, feeling tired, from working with clients. I love my clients, but just the exhaustion of your mind from working with so many people. At the end of the day, I've been really like tired. But I realized when you started this whole thing, I was so excited. And then all of a sudden, I was just like, oh my God, it's so much. It's so much work. I can't, and it's not so much, at all. But like, what is so much? But I realized that this was happening at the right time because becoming for me is exactly what we're doing. It's like writing a chapter and getting involved with women that I've never met before who I'm learning how to truly admire because everyone's so individual and so wonderful. It's like we're different, but we're going in the same direction in a way.
Mhm.
And like, I think this is where I'm meant to be because I think that this cohort and this whole, even the podcast is like part of my becoming. Like, I just realized that I had to give myself like that chance. I never realized, it just all of a sudden came to me. You were inspirational for me because I texted you and we had a conversation, but your texting back to me was so inspirational. It clicked like the light bulb. And I was like, this is really where I'm meant to be.
I love
And I think this is going to be my next becoming. And I'm just not sure how yet, but I can feel it. And I feel the connection so deeply.
that's kind of what I mean by this group. I feel like we are building the airplane as we're flying it, right? That's such like a corporate way of describing things. But here we are building this remote women centric or, female community. Although I know each of you in person and some of you know each other in person, we haven't yet all been able to come together in person, but we've still made the effort to build this community remotely. And in a way that we want to create this blueprints that other people can do the same thing in their own lives, right? And have an intentional community in their life that helps them kind of navigate the world or grow or help on their own becoming journey. So what a revelation. This is the first time I was even hearing you say it exactly that way. So that was amazing. I'm glad we got it recorded. I remember the first time you were on the show when it was called Winning Wednesday, and that was already so out of your element and your comfort zone, right? To be on the show, recording, getting interviewed and all of that. And then you came back a second time for Becoming You. And now here you are trusting me yet again with another idea that I have to create this group where we can all co-author a book and then we can be on a podcast together and we can, show like kind of lead by example. So I just love that you're here for it. I mean, I can't imagine it without you. And I'm so glad to have you here and in my life. So it's amazing,
Feel
really.
the same about you.
Allison, anything you want to add to that or any other thoughts that you were having? Or do you want me to ask another question?
I will add that I think we're always becoming. And when we finally have that realization that if we're not growing and becoming, no matter who we are and where we are in our lives, in physical locations, it's as if we've just kind of stopped. And that is not really living. And the opportunity that we're having now is not to become that thing on our own, but become that thing together so that we might be able to inspire and empower and engage and consider
Mm-hmm.
what the future can be for ourselves, but do that for
Right.
others.
And you are such a visionary, Allison. I feel like you've thought about so many ways that we can kind of take this group and catapult it with book tours and, retreats and anything else. So when you kind of think about growing together, what comes to your mind and how do you envision maybe leveraging either what you learn here or this community here in the other areas of your life? Has that been something that you've been considering or is it kind of separate? I'm curious.
Mm, well, most everything I do in my life is connected in some way, shape, or form. It's by design and by just, you know, how I am, how I, I see that connection. And it does tend to, I don't know, people call it bleeding into different parts of their lives. And in other times in careers, people have gone in the direction of wanting to have those silos of their lives and compartmentalize. And I've chosen, and it's made me very happy to have that, you know, blurred lines are really continuous, kind of look across. It's just who I am. It's how I've been trained and maybe
Yeah.
born, but definitely I look across.
Right.
And that ensures a, a model for, I mean, a model, it ensures a life that, feels full. It's not as if, I turn off one thing and turn on another. It's just not how personally I operate.
Right.
And I'm a creative. I'm a designer, of course, of humans.
Right.
And that's not always easy because it's not like having a static something. It's humans. We can change and shift at any time. But architecting what that is and what the future can be is, I mean, I know that's a big part of my purpose and what I'm here for.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And just to ensure that everyone's included.
Hmm. Jill, did you have any thoughts on that?
I don't exactly operate like that. I love that though. I wish I did. It feels so rich and full and great. But what I love about what we're doing, it's like because I keep thinking about the women centric piece of this, and I just feel like we have this women in general have this incredible force, and like we adapt to different things, and we keep going and going, and then we bounce back and just keep going and going and multitask and all the things, and not to knock men because they're wonderful too in their own way, and we need them too, but I just think what we're doing here and what you've created holds a space and a community for us, and just to do some really powerful things that or just have our voice, spoken, or maybe something in a chapter of one of ours will really inspire just one person. It's just, I don't know, it's a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah. I always love that idea that if you're helping at least one person, then it's worth it. And sometimes I'm like, I might even be that one person I'm helping, and then that's worth it. So I feel like we never know the effect that we have, and it winds up being a ripple effect. And half the time we feel like we're speaking into a void, but you really don't realize the impact that you're having because not everyone will tell you how you've impacted them or how you've helped them. And you might not find out for a while to come, if at all. But I think it's just important to like keep putting one foot in front of the other, right? And finding out like, what does it mean to be a woman? Like, how do you want to show up in the world? And how do you accept and empower the other women around you to be their authentic and true selves, even if it differs from how you want to show up, right? Like there's no one right way of doing these things. And it's definitely a spectrum, but I think it's pretty cool. And Allison, I love the design thinking that you were talking about because that is just fascinating to me. And I love how Jill was like, that's not for me because it's not for everyone, right? But just the idea of kind of visualizing and playing around almost in a sandbox and seeing what you can create and where it will lead is is really inspiring. And I feel like that's exactly what we've done here. With that in mind, Allison, do you have anything else you want to add?
I think one of the things we really wanted to talk about is our collective, and what we're doing and how we're doing it. And I think one of the points, and Jill, I think you made it before, is just, you know, we're we're coming together and like forming and norming and storming, as we call it, in the world and in design and human design. And at the same time, through our own personal growth, and this is how I feel in my own personal growth, it's getting closer to, hmm, what would be those messages that we need to put out there in this world, in our collective? And while that's really exciting to me to do this together, and anybody that knows me knows it's about working with others and collaboration. And at the same time, where do you insert yourself? Where do you put yourself? Where might you um, understand how, I don't know, you try something out, and then at the same time, where do the messages that we're designing together come together and make for what this collective book, podcast, um, retreats, book tours, whatever they might be, but that we're doing it for a reason. And I always say, even though I just said but just now, I'm a big
You are.
person,
I can
and
attest to that.
thank you. And
Yeah.
I take that as a compliment. Those are a lot of things that I've had to grow into. I never really fully understood that power, and I'm learning about it every single day. And the point being is that if you can look at yourself as constantly becoming and constantly evolving, growing, and developing, everything's an and. It's an and, not just for, hmm, we can't do that, or this won't work. Our world is constantly evolving and changing, as evidenced with what we're going through right now more than anything. Thinking about, you know, I mean, would any conversation be anything if we didn't say AI?
Yeah.
And, and how might we evolve as humans? And I'm a big believer in that. And I'm doing, my partner Jess and I are doing a lot of work in this area right now and talking about us as humans and our ability to take a step back and our ability to actually see something new in this world to help us evolve and create
I love that.
and create the ability for us to see how we can be better than before,
Hmm.
even if we thought we were the best thing ever, or that everyone can. And I think that's one of our greater opportunities. And I know it'll be a theme in our book. That's even a thing, getting okay with not being perfect.
Yes.
And at the same time, how we might, getting back to what I was saying about AI, and how we might help other people through what we're creating together, have the ability to go forward and do it afraid, or do it with less confidence, or try something totally new and different, or become something new and different. And how might we use new technology to be able to do that? It's a big
Yeah,
deal.
it is.
So I think that there's a lot to that. I'm really excited for what we're creating as a group. I am the power and believe in the power of us, and a group of amazing women. And that's how change happens.
Hmm. Totally.
Nothing ever happened without a group of amazing people coming together. And I think this is the right group. And I'm excited for what's to come and who we will be. And we'll
Yeah, and what we'll do with it. And the momentum will build, and who will we attract along the way, and who will become part of this movement, you know?
a great
And
point.
yeah. And Allison, when you were actually on the show when it was called Winning Wednesday, you said perfectionism is the enemy of confidence. And I don't know if you remember saying that exact phrase, but what you just said literally was like echoing that sentiment from back in the day, where you don't want to get caught up in your perfectionism and you want to have confidence moving forward. So I thought that was kind of ironic.
Well, I think it also speaks to, and thank you so much for bringing that up. It speaks to, if you remember me telling the story about my aunt who just passed away. So I'm like heartbroken. And at the same time, how you learn as you get older, especially
Yeah.
for us women who have been taught to be, Barbie. We've been taught to be perfect. And it's not surprising that it's not, like kind of built in. Yeah. You really
Yeah.
tell yourself that way. And I think that's one of the other challenges with AI is that your curiosity is a place that some of us love to be in, but many of us just makes us very nervous. Maybe I don't know something, or I'm going to
Right.
evolve to something new.
Something I wanted to say, which I don't think I've been able to say yet,
Mhm.
but I wanted to just take a step back and describe how we all came together into this, collective cohort that we've been creating. A woman on LinkedIn had asked me if she could be on the show to talk about her publishing business and her journey of becoming, right? So I invited her to be on the show. And she told me about this concept of co-authorship. And she told me influencers just invite people in their community and they write books together. And I was like, well, people have called me an influencer, so maybe that could mean me, right? And so I kind of just put some feelers out. And it's not that I'm out here thinking I'm an influencer or anything like that, but I just thought, okay, many other people have done this. I know a bunch of very smart people who I would love to write a book with, and I've always wanted to write a book, and I'm sure that they have too. So what's the harm in just putting some feelers out? And I wound up reaching out to, let's say, 10 or 15 people to be part of this group where we would write a book together. And many people were receptive. We did a couple of these virtual sessions once a month in the beginning, and just like meeting with each other and fleshing out ideas of what the book could be about and what each person's role would be and how would it impact their own personal brands. And that's kind of where the conversation started. And over time, the group got a little bit smaller. It kind of organically sloughed off, I would say. And it's not because of anything. Like I said, all these people were fantastic and they would be great authors, but I think just naturally the evolution of where this book was going, it's almost like when you're carving into a tree or you're making a piece of art, like the art exposes itself. You're just here sculpting, but you're not really the one like forcing a creation, right? And then eventually, which took nearly no time at all, the six of us remained. And now I know Devin wasn't able to hop on, so it's technically the five of us, but it's all good. And it wound up being a group of women only, even though in the beginning it had been, co-ed, so to speak. Like it involved more people and different genders and things like that. But now, because it turned into a group of women, we kind of realized what this community could mean, and we realized what the book could mean and what we would want to include in the book and all those things. So we've been meeting once a month, once a quarter to talk through these ideas. We've been writing on our own time, coming together to write, and we really wanted to keep the momentum going. And like I said, make a blueprint for other people to do the same if they want to build an intentional, even remote community, regardless of geography or backgrounds or anything like that, to just show them that it's totally possible. And all of you didn't know each other, or some of you knew each other, but not all of you knew each other in this way until I was able to bring us all together. And I'm so glad that each of you said yes, and we all came together to make this group, and we continue to choose to be here. So doing this podcast episode is a great way to just put all of what we've been doing kind of behind the scenes out there. And hopefully it will spark a conversation and keep the momentum going. And as Allison said, it's getting skin in the game, right? So we're really doing this. There's no going back now, which I'm so happy for.
We definitely, like, it was six of us. You have been, like Katrina, have been the main connector for the rest of the five of us. We knew of each other, like I knew Allison as well, but I didn't know the other three women on the call. So I think just from the past year and a half of us starting the journey and coming together, meeting like every single month diligently, you pulling us together, writing our own chapters on our own, just it's been so transformative. And the fact that each of us did individual episodes with you for becoming, I just felt like when I was writing part of the book, it just felt like I was writing down when I was talking to you at some points where you talked about early childhood or even in corporate versus personal, like how we learn different lessons throughout our lives, and then what that actually culminated to us becoming who we were at that point when we were sitting down talking with you. And the same process kind of replicated when I was writing the chapter and continuing to do so as we talk to each other each month is we talk to each other, then we debrief and we talk about the world or each other, kind of connect on things, and then I go back, reflect on it, and that each time I go back after our conversations, a version of me emerges. That's the easiest way, the best way I could describe it is like we are on our journey to becoming ourselves is constant. So I love that we have each other in this community and we now can open it up like via the book to the world.
That's so awesome. I really think like all of you have that kind of common thread. And Devin's been the one to call this out. Like we need our through line, right? Of like, how do we come together? But every time I listen to any of you talk, I'm like, duh, it makes so much sense that we're here together. Like literally can't imagine with any other types of people or any other people doing this, right? Because where we started, the other opinions in the group would have taken us in a very different direction than where we are now. And yet we all had that kind of commitment and even foresight and gut instinct to see this thing through. And I'm just excited that we're showcasing what it takes to make this happen as we're on this becoming journey that Jill and now you, Rashmi, have both said. We're becoming together as a collective too. It's really amazing.
I agree. And I love that. And I've gotten so like to learn so much about each individual person. Like what our quirks are, like what really like bothers us, like what makes us who we are. And then I like seeing that unique personality come through in like one thing that actually binds us together, which is this. So thank you for bringing us together.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like all of you have thanked me for bringing everyone together. And I know I technically have that credit, but I always say this, like, I can't do any of it without you. So like, thank you for saying yes, because I just sent the invite, you know what I mean? It's up to you guys to really show up. And you did, you showed up and you keep showing up. I think that's like wisdom for life. Like what you put into things is what you get out of them. And if you're maybe a person who's like complaining of not having community or feeling like depressed on your couch and like, you know, blah, 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 maybe instead of waiting for an invite, you just give invites and see, you know, where it takes you.
You know, I feel that what I had said before, I'm always talking about this journey of life, that we never get to perfection, that we never get to it's just a constant, just a consistent journey of life, which even though I never looked at it as the becoming piece, it's the same exact thing, right? Like the journey is becoming. It's the same thing, really. But I realized in writing, I'm trying to write my chapter, I should say, through the lens of unconditional love, which is something that really runs deep for me. It's not something that I like learned in a textbook. It's much more about something that I live, like a lived experience. It was how I grew up, but I also incorporated it into my life throughout. And then as a psychotherapist, I use a term called unconditional positive regard, because you can't really have unconditional love, you know, as a psychotherapist in that way. It's just doesn't seem ethical. But it is the same thing to have unconditional positive regard, because that's really just showing up for somebody with completely, absolutely no judgment and just being there for somebody. And then I realized that through this cohort and what we're doing, it like just feels like another layer of that for me. And I haven't gotten to know everybody really. I haven't been really a part of each and every one, and I really want to be better at that. And I do want to get to know everybody, because I think I already admire everybody, but if I got to know them, I would admire them so much more. But I already see how just even this small process for me, how it's changing how I see myself. And I think what's so interesting is that I think that's what I said before in a different way, that this is what is becoming for me. And I'm realizing that I'm just more than I thought I was. So it's really fascinating.
It is beautiful. Jill, that was like really awesome to hear. I feel like every time someone speaks in this group, I'm just like, mic drop, mic drop, mic drop. Like there's so much wisdom here and just like collective amazingness that I always want to process what people are saying as soon as they're done talking. To me, it's not about like the quantity, right? Showing up to every single meeting ever. It's the quality and it's what you bring when you show up. Are you present? Are you focused? Are you interested? Is this aligned? Is it part of your value system, right? I have always just kind of had this open door about it, like coming together in this collective community that we're creating should not be a stressor. It should be kind of a reprieve from the day-to-day life. So whoever is able to show up in whatever capacity, that's where I want you guys feeling free and welcome to show up, and not feeling like a burden of obligation or anything like that. And I also, Jill, I love what you said, like this reframe of unconditional love within kind of a therapist setting, or just the fact that, like a professional setting, you could say, right? Unconditional positive regard. Like, what can we do to assume that positive intent from other people, to not have the judgment? But I would take it even further. Like, to me, unconditional love and that experience of someone who isn't judging you, it feels like there's also no strings attached. There's no expectation that you're going to do something. It's a removal of a transactional experience, right? And in professional settings, there's so much transaction that it can be really hard to feel like anyone actually cares about you as a person, because things change overnight and suddenly, you're kind of questioning a lot of things, or at least it feels like very confusing, or it can feel that way. So I think finding your people and knowing who you can trust and who can be in that capacity, and finding ways that you can show up in that capacity too, without necessarily draining yourself or being vulnerable in the wrong situations, is probably a life skill, something that you can learn over time. But as soon as you become aware of it, which I learned this from you how many years ago now, then that's your kind of starting point. And then from there, you continue to progress and try to get better at it. Being mindful and being kind and empathetic and all of that.
And I love what you mentioned, Jill, where I know at some of the earlier meetings that we've had, especially like you and I, Jill, I remember us having trouble like getting past a certain point when we were writing the book, where we were like, we're focusing a lot on what happened to us in the past, like what kind of lessons did we learn in the past, and we're like, I don't know if I want to talk about like all of this in like the hard way, being this vulnerable in just like a chapter. This could be like a whole book that we do on our own. But I remember you and I talking earlier on, and I love the turn that you took with this. It's like, you know what, everything as that has happened in the past, obviously that has happened, we learned from it, we grew from it, but what can we take from this? And what's the purpose of writing this book is like providing what people can take forward from this. So I really love the point of view that you took with that. And I think that one particular conversation, I remember I was like, I need to do the same thing, where what really needs to happen is writing this book, using this as an opportunity to give forward, pay it forward to the community. So, yes, there are things that happen, but what are some of the lessons that we each learn from our lives that we can just kind of pass on to the next generation or just people reading it? So, I love taking that view of, I think for me, it was taking the view on how can our voices be heard. There are so many questions internally that like women, men, like, but mostly women have, that get them stuck either in their personal or professional life. Is like, is my voice being heard? Am I being seen? Am I being supported? What else should I do? But most of the time it's just them being authentically themselves is just enough. And unfortunately, the world doesn't make a lot of people seem that way. So that's what I love about all of us is we don't pretend with each other. We are the way we are. We show up on calls, and I'm pretty sure we're writing our chapters as authentically as we are as well. So I really see this book like giving hope for our peers and the future generation to kind of destroy or put an end to that like generational trauma, to the self doubt, to really like coming up with confidence and just being ourselves, and that being enough and that much more support to the world. So that's the angle that I'm trying to take to write the chapter. But no, thank you for inspiring that.
You know, it's so interesting that you said that, because here you're talking about self-doubt and confidence, and I would have never thought that. So you saying that and sharing that gave me like that hope and that confidence that I need, because I'm feeling a ton of self-doubt and lack of confidence. So I really appreciate that a lot.
No, thank you. It is scary. It's so scary to like put ourselves like with people that we know. Let's say like between me and Katrina, I was fine for like 3 years because we've known each other. And then it expanded to like the six of us. And I was like, okay, new people. Now I need to like talk more.
Right,
And now it's
right.
just like the world potentially. So it is very scary.
And funny enough, this just popped in my head, but Rashmi, you might recall when you were on Winning Wednesday back in the day, I don't think you had ever been on a podcast before, and you either had just like done Toastmasters kind of in a silo, but I remember like public speaking for you was like such a thing that you were working to overcome. And now like you would never even think that, right? And I was telling Jill the same thing because she was in a similar boat, like never did a podcast. And then I'm like, come on, let's do it. It'll be fun. And it's just amazing to me how far even both of you have come just in that one category. But do you remember that? It just
I
popped
do.
into my mind.
I do. That was very early where I just started, like, to your point, like Toastmasters. I was so shy, like, even throughout college. Like, started Toastmasters at my first corporate job because at that point I was like, I need to do this at this point. It was more of a necessity than like an add on in my life. And there came Katrina and be like, do you want to just record this for the world to see? And I was like, I
Right.
don't know. But no, thank you for encouraging that because that definitely brought us along.
I'm so glad. It really has been my pleasure to even have this show, and the amount of people I hope in some way I have been able to challenge them, but also just share my platform. I mean, that's all it ever started as. It's like, oh, I have this like following on LinkedIn, but I have nothing to say to them. So why don't you come on and you say what you want to say, and I'll post it, and you'll get the views, and I'll have some content to share. So that's like how it started, more or less. But it's amazing how far it's come, and truly how much I've grown throughout this process. Like, talk about a story of becoming. Without this podcast, I really wonder where I would be in so many different ways. So it's the gift that keeps on giving, but it's nothing without each of you, the guests, the audience, but everyone saying yes, and all of you part of this collective book that we're writing together. Like, I can't believe like what a snowball effect it's been. And every day I come up with some new project or I hear a new idea and I'm like, hey, are you on board? You want to join me? And you guys are like, yeah, let's go. Let's see what it's about. So it's been amazing just like having you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is great.
And Katrina, thank you just for making us become like we're getting together because of you.
Yeah, you're choosing to become. So thank you for your choice.
We do. No other way.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you guys have any final thoughts or anything we didn't touch on? Rashmi, if you wanted to just update us on what you've been up to since you were last on the show.
It's almost like 2.5 years. I remember now because I was at my new like corporate job where I
Yeah.
switched and I was in that office and no, that was a while ago. But
Yeah.
no, great progress since then. I think just growing professionally, like career wise, have gotten more like well equipped with my job, like what my role is, learning how to like manage different expectations. I'm kind of semi stepping into like people leadership roles, so growing from that sense as well. Personally, still in New York, loving the city, living where I am. So just exploring that aspect of my
Yeah.
life as well is I love to explore things. I love to grow. So have been doing a lot more of that in the past like 2.5 years as well. So growing from that perspective as well. So I think just reflecting on 2 years, it's been a lot of growth, a lot of self-reflection now that I've had the time to like set my own routine in a more like organized way. It's just doing a lot of self-reflection and that has actually led into what I'm writing in the book. So very excited for
Beautiful.
this.
Yeah, I'm glad it's so intertwined. And self-reflection, self-awareness, like all of that aids in behavior changes, right? Like if we're aware of the way that we're thinking, then we can change what we're thinking, and then we can change our behavior and show up differently. We get to choose who we want to be in this life, and you kind of get one pass through life, but that doesn't mean you can't change as you go, so that your future self has something to thank you for.
Exactly.
Okay, Jill, did you have thoughts on that?
It's interesting when we started this and I said, I'm just working hard, and because that's where I'm at. Like I feel like working with clients, your brain, you get a little burnt out, but I do take time and I do reflect as well. And I do, spend time with family and my branch that on becoming, it's so interesting because I'm becoming on that show. I think I said I was going to become a grandma, right?
You were about to be a grandmother. Yeah, it was amazing.
And Olivia was born and now she's 2.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's been a wonderful part of my journey. But because of this book, I feel like I focus on like career and business, but it's not, because it's really, everything. This whole process allows for reflection. Sorry.
Right. No, I'm glad you added that. And yeah, I mean, I really wanted to, when I had you on the show, I wanted to drive home that point. Like in that moment, today you were not a grandmother, but in a week you would be a grandmother. And it doesn't go back. You don't just not become a grandmother again, right? So you go from being not a grandmother to being a grandmother. And I think that's amazing, because I think back to my own childhood when I have like my Oma and Opa, which are German for grandma, grandpa. On my mom's side, I was pretty close with them. And in my mind, that's who they were, right? And they were like in their 70s and then lived through like late 80s, 90s. And I had them for that amount of time, and so grateful. But as I've lived on, I've wished that they could have been part of my life in so many different ways. But then I think back to the fact that I just had them for that tail end of their life, but they lived, 70 years before I even knew them. But that's not who they were to me. So it's the same with Olivia, like your little grandbaby. Like, she knows you as grandma and nothing else, but you were already a whole person before she was born, and that's part of the human experience. Like, just keeps going. I mean, I don't know how else to put it, but it's astounding when we stop to think about it, and to just reflect on the lives of the people in our lives, like the life that they had before they entered our life, the life that they'll have if they leave our life too. And just the fact that so often we don't even really know our own ancestors, even 1 or 2 generations back, because we only have like that tunnel vision of who they are and then nothing prior to. So I really like these episodes because they are kind of a time capsule. Someone in the future can look back on them and be like, wow, this is who you were at this time in your life, and it's just a small gift. So I hope Olivia looks at this one day and she's like, wow, Grandma, you are a whole person.
That's my Grammy.
Yeah.
Oh, so sweet.
The things I think about, you guys. Okay, so any final thoughts before we wrap up and stop the recording?
I think just reflecting on like the 20 minutes that I've been on,
Yeah.
at least, I think just thinking about like what becoming is to all of us, each of us, it really took us on a journey so far. It's not arriving at the perfect version of ourselves, but it's really accepting like the changing versions of ourselves. And that was just what you said, Katrina, right now. Like that reminded me of each of us are changing from day to day and drastically, like year to year. So there's no perfect version of ourselves that we come to, but we just accept like how we are at different points, different evolutions of our lives. So very looking forward to like, even from us starting to write the book to maybe when we end and do another episode like this, we would have changed a lot.
Yes.
It's interesting, Katrina, because Rashmi just said basically what Allison said.
That's what I was thinking too. Amazing. I know, but we're so in sync. I mean, this is why we're all here. So you can't make it up. Amazing. Yeah, I'm excited to see where we take it. And we'll definitely have to check in again, whether that's in 6 months or another year from now, who knows? But we're going to keep plugging away at the book and keep opening up opportunities for people to do the same. Not necessarily write a book, but hopefully build communities wherever they are with intention and purpose. So thank you for being on the show, and thank you everyone for listening.
You are my most important listener, and I can't thank you enough for spending your time with me.
If this content resonates with you, then hit subscribe. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube by following @ConnectorQueen. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you again on the next episode of Becoming You.